Hello and welcome to Wednesday's vlog where I've got lots of things to share with you. First of all, I've got a Marks & Spencer's actual try on. Then I'm going to share with you my diet and exercise journey with actual footage of me exercising with weights and sharing a granola recipe. And finally, I'm going to tell you a little story about how I walked the plank in Kenya. So without further ado, let's crack on with the Marks & Spencer's try on. Now, I gave Marks & Spencer's quite a bad rap a couple of weeks ago, and I'll link the video down below for you, where I went into a store and I was so disappointed with what I saw. So I thought, let's try and redress the balance a bit, and let's order what I thought might be some really good essential pieces for spring from Marks & Spencer's, so they're reasonably priced and hopefully stylish. And I stuck to the Marks & Spencer's own brand rather than going outside of it, which they have on their website. They've got lots of other brands now available on their website, including jewels, and I think they might have white stuff, and they've certainly got higher end brands as well, like Tinted & Parker, Eyebrow, Nobody's Child, that sort of thing. But I wanted to stick to Marks & Spencer's own brand, so that's what I've done for this try on. And as I said, I've tried to stick to basics, but I also put in what I thought might be a slightly more interesting, slightly more fashion forward, edgier outfit, for want of a better expression, to see whether that could work as well. So when I run the footage, what I'm going to show you is me trying on the pieces next to an image of the model, so you can see how it looked on the model and how it looked on me. So without further ado, let's crack on with the Marks & Spencer's try on. So let's start with these cotton rich straight leg ankle grazers. Now, I chose these because I liked the style. They look nice and simple, maybe not terribly exciting, but a good essential piece in our wardrobe is what I thought. They're £25 and I've got them in black, but they come in navy, pale blue, buff, and we need to talk about Marks & Spencer's colours, buff and pale yellow. I'm not exactly sure why anyone would want a pair of trousers in what they call buff and also pale yellow. Don't know, let me know in the comments. In the customer reviews it says it fits true to size, and they come in extra short, short, regular, extra long, long, and right up to size 20. They're 97% cotton, 3% elastane, and they're machine washable. Now, I took them in a size 14 because I don't know whether Marks & Spencer's sizes have got smaller again, or I've just got bigger, and we'll come to how big I am a bit later in the video. But I took a size 14 and they do fit me, as I think you'll agree, very well. Now, I would say they're a good, easy to wear staple, but like I said, a bit boring. But staples can be boring, essentials can be boring, but you can always jazz them up with a top. And as you can see in the clip, I'm wearing a white t-shirt, of which more later. Moving swiftly on to these green trousers, hunter green to be precise. Now, these are called the Pure Cotton Twill Barrel Leg trousers. They're £39.50. They come in this hunter green and also ecru. Comes in short, regular and long up to sizes 24, and it fits true to size, say, customers. And it's had 4 stars and above on Marks & Spencer's website. And again, I took a size 14 and a 12. Actually, I tried a 12, but the 12 was a little bit too tight. The 14 more or less fitted me perfectly. But I think you'll agree they're not the most flattering on me. I think they make me look huge. But I did like the colour, and I just thought I'd try. And those of you who watched my channel before will know I'm always trying to find slightly wider leg trousers, not always the sort of skinny or straight leg jeans that I tend to go for, just to see if I can update my wardrobe a little bit, but definitely not with these. They're not my cup of tea at all. Now, interestingly, on the website, as you can see, there is a short green jacket, and I really like the look of this whole outfit. This was the sort of edgy part of my hunt on the M&S website for an edgier looking sort of outfit. Now, the green jacket, I think you'll agree, on the website is short, isn't it? But could I find that jacket on the site? No, I could not, and all I could find was this cotton rich collared short utility jacket. Now, I think that's a bit of a misnomer, don't you? I'd say this is long, not short, but that is the name of the jacket. Now, this is £69. It comes in sizes 6 to 24. It got 5-star reviews, albeit not that many reviews, and it fits true to size, so the reviews say. Now, I took it in a size 10. I think probably round the tum again. It's a little bit tighter if you do it up, but you probably wouldn't do it up anyway. It's made of cotton and polyester mix with a water repellent finish, and it's machine washable. However, for me, I don't think it was at all flattering. It's far too long. If it had been half the length, it would have been perfect, or even shorter, as the image that was paired with the trousers, but this jacket is not it, or it certainly doesn't look like it, and I could not find it anywhere on the site. So I think if it had been half the length, it would have been great, and I really like the utility style. That is one of my styles. It always has been, actually. I've always liked that sort of, I would call it utilitarian style. But sadly, this jacket was not for me, but I do think actually if you were taller, it would really suit you. And I don't know if I've said, but it's actually water repellent. I think I might have said that, which I think would be a great sort of spring summer jacket, especially in cities or even in the country where you don't want to overdress and you want to wear layers. It would be a really nice kind of long jacket to keep you dry. Now, talking of things that are too long, let's move on to this navy cardigan. Now, as you'll know, if you watch my Marks and Spencer's video from a couple of weeks ago, I tried on a cardi and it didn't suit me at all, and it was a bit long. The style just wasn't great. And I thought I would hunt around for another basic, essential type of cardigan. And I couldn't find any in the women's section, so I went to the men's section and I found this navy one. Now, I thought this was rather good, and it's in the air yarn, which I really like. This fabric, which is basically polyester and acrylic with 4% wool. Now, I know it does pill, but so does cashmere, and you can certainly remove it with one of those little battery operated bobble remover thingies that you can get from Amazon. So I really love air yarn. I think it's a great fabric. Now, this is £40. It comes in small, medium, large, extra large and super extra large, I think that is, and it comes in black, dark navy, which I've got here, neutral and grey. Now, the blokes seem to like it because they've given it a 4.5 stars on the site. I took it in a size small. Again, it's a little bit tight around the tum, which I think is a feature of buying men's clothes anyway, if you want them to be okay on the shoulders. But for me, they're a little bit tight around the tum if I get a small, and a medium would have just been too big, I think. And I like the fabric, as I say, and I think it would be fine if I kept it open. But also, again, it's just too long, so it didn't work for me. But I think if you're taller or you're looking for a longer line cardigan, I really like the shape of it. I think it's quite sharp and smart, and you could certainly dress it up or dress it down. I probably wouldn't do it up, but I thought I'd just try it done up to see how it looked. And it's a lovely cardi, and maybe it would suit the man in your life too, you never know. But unfortunately not suitable for me. Now, sticking with air yarn, I decided to try this crew neck jumper. Now, what do you think of this colour? Tell me. Is this what you would call light natural? What is this colour? And why does Marks and Spencer's think this is a flattering colour? It looks completely different on the website. And let's just cut back to me for a minute. I'm holding it up. It's got this bluish mottled hue, I would say. I mean, I just think it's so unflattering. I really don't understand why it can't just be a plain beige or a plain cream colour. Why does it have to have this mottled effect? It's a real shame, because one of my favourite hoodies is just a ribbed plain cream colour. It's not got this mottled effect, and I don't think this suits my complexion at all. So very disappointed with that, even though I like the style and it feels lovely and soft. Let me know in the comments, do you think it actually suits me? I really don't. The style is fine, the shade is definitely not for me, but it does come in blue. Again, not entirely sure why they would choose these random colours. The blue is not really for me. I just don't wear a lot of pale blue, or light blue. I tend to wear navy, and I don't think fresh blue in this instance is my colour. Now, it's available in extra small, small, medium large and extra large. Now, it's got 4 stars because quite a lot of the reviews didn't like the pilling, but like I say, I'm kind of used to that and I'm okay with it. But sadly, the colour just doesn't suit me, I don't think, personally. Now, moving on to this, what they call a textured crew neck jumper with cotton. Now, it's £45, and again, what is this colour? This is actually called soft turquoise. Now, I'm sorry, but where is the turquoise in this? Yes, it's true to say the little threads, and I'm just going to bring it right up to the camera there, have a sort of bluish tinge, but would you call that turquoise? I certainly wouldn't. Very, very odd. Now, I like the idea of this sort of open weave. They call it textured, and it is textured, that's true. But I would call that open weave. And I did get one like this from Uniqlo last year, actually, which I didn't wear that much because, I don't know, the weather was a bit rubbish last year in London in the summer, so I didn't get a chance to wear it. But I thought I'd try this one because it's a similar style. Now this is £45. It comes in sizes extra small to extra large, and I took a size small, which actually I think again was a little bit too, not tight exactly, but wasn't quite roomy enough for the boxy style I like around my tum. Now customers say it fits a little big, but not on me, sadly. It was just right on the top, just a little bit tight round the bottom. It got 4.5 stars on M&S's website. It's made of viscose, cotton, acrylic and polyester. But the colour, like I say, I personally think is very odd. The ecru is, again, not what I would understand as ecru either. And the fit wasn't great, so that's going to be going back. But again, if you are looking for an open weave type jumper, I think it would have been a nice choice. I just don't think the colours are right, sadly. So quite disappointed in that one. Now, let me talk about one that I'm absolutely thrilled about and I'm going to get more of, and that is the pure cotton crew neck boxy t-shirt at £9.50. I mean, that is a steal in anybody's book in my view. Now it comes in sizes 6 to 24. It fits me absolutely perfect. It says it fits true to size on the website. I think it does. I took a size 10, although I am surprised to see that it only got 4 stars on M&S's website. Now it just shows you, doesn't it, that everybody has a different view. We're all so different. For me, this is an absolutely brilliant t-shirt. I really love it. I just wish it came in more colours. It only comes in pale blue and black as well as white. Why haven't they got red? Why haven't they got beige? It seems really odd to me that they've only got it in those 3 colours, but I'm definitely going to get it in black. But really love this t-shirt. I know I'm going to get lots of wear out of it. Now, just before we go on to diet and exercise, I just wanted to tell you what I've got on today on my complexion. I am wearing the Drunk Elephant D-Bronzi anti-pollution bronzing drops because someone asked me in my live last week, and I'll link that down below for you if you haven't seen it, whether I'd use bronzing drops. And so I thought I must crack on really, and it's that time of year. So I've been trying them for a couple of days. The first day I put 2 drops in my SPF actually because I forgot to put them in the moisturiser and I didn't see much difference. So today I remembered to put them in my moisturiser, which I put on before I put my SPF on. And yes, there was a bit of a difference, but then of course I'm putting a skin tint. I've actually got the Mercier skin tint on today on the top, so I don't really know whether I'm getting any effect from them. I don't know, maybe it's something you just want to do if you're not wearing a foundation or a skin tint, don't know. But anyway, I'm going to keep trying them. But that's the high-end version, but I've also got the Bondi Sands bronzing drops as well. Now these were the only 2 that I could find that didn't contain fragrance. Nearly all the bronzing drops that I researched a few months ago, it was probably last year actually, had fragrance in them, so that's no good at all. But I'm going to try these Bondi Sands ones as well and see how we get on with those, and of course I will report back. And the other thing I wanted to report back on was we talked about me not powdering my under eyes now after I put concealer on. I wanted to let you know that this wonderful mascara, which as we know is incredibly affordable, the Maybelline Sky High, which I have to say at the moment is actually my favourite mascara. Can you believe that? It really is very, very good. And there's no smudging at all, because that was the question. Aren't you finding that your mascaras smudge underneath your eyes after a while if you don't powder? Not with this one. So far, so good. So I will be testing out more. In fact, I think I tried the Exagger the other day and that was all right as well. But I'll do a proper report back because I want to get hold of the Fenty Beauty Hella Thick mascara, which I used to love last year. I loved it. And also the Chantecaille Faux Cils mascara. They were my 2 favourite high-end, so I'm going to get those again because I haven't actually found any mascaras in the last few months that I love quite as much as them. So I'll test them out and let you know how we get on. Right, let's talk about diet and exercise. So I think the last time we talked about diet and exercise was 10 days ago when you watched this video, but it's actually a week because I'm filming this on Sunday. And I wanted to update you first of all on any weight loss. Now, in my book, which I'll link down below for you, I talked about not using scales, but in order for me to show you my progress, I think the scales at the moment are the easiest way to do it. So that's what I'm going to show you now. So as you can see, I've lost 2 pounds, which I'm delighted about. So my aim is to get to 8.5 stone, which is, I think, 120 pounds. So we've made progress, which is really good. And how I've done that is really cut down on my portion sizes, my cheese consumption and my chocolate as well. Now, my eating over the last week's been a bit weird because my husband was away. I ate a lot of leftovers, so I wasn't really cooking a huge amount from scratch. So it was a bit of a weird sort of week. But it obviously worked. Now, I did drink some wine, but I did cut down. So I think I had 3 days without wine, but then I had a run of 3 days with wine, including Wednesday. Maybe did I have some on Thursday? I might have done. Friday I definitely did, although I only had a small glass. My friend came for dinner, but she doesn't drink. And Saturday I had some as well. Today I probably will have a tiny bit. Then Monday I won't. Tuesday I'm out for dinner. In fact, next week's a bit ridiculous because I'm out for dinner Tuesday, Thursday and Saturday. So I won't have any wine on Monday, Wednesday and Friday. I think we'll try and have 3 days off. I think 3 days off is fine. It's not like I drink a lot anyway. So we've been very good and I've made sure that my breakfasts were healthy. I've mostly had porridge and I do make that with milk and water. I probably do 2/3 full milk and 1/3 water, and I always add some frozen fruit to that. But my snacks have been healthier, so I've been eating, one of my favourite things to eat actually is a partially unfrozen strawberry. So I buy strawberries, I freeze them. Obviously you can't eat them straight from the freezer because they just break your teeth, so I partially unfreeze them, which gives them a really nice texture but isn't too mushy like a fresh raspberry can be. So I really like that, and it just gives me a little hit of sweetness as well. I don't add any sweetness to them, and that really does give me that satisfaction of that bit of a bite, bit of a crunch and some sweetness and a cup of tea, and that's fine. It can keep me going till dinner time. But let's talk about breakfast now, and I'm going to show you my granola recipe. Now, when I say my granola recipe, I've adapted this recipe from a BBC Good Food recipe, which I'll link down below for you. So now let me show you how I made my granola recipe. So let's make granola. Now in this bowl, I've already mixed together nuts, seeds, porridge oats, and dried apricots. I would have preferred sour cherries, but I haven't been able to find the kind I like. Now I'm just going to cut up the apricots, because I'm slightly deviating from the recipe. I always do this. It's just that sometimes the recipes just don't sound quite right to me. And I'm sure that we all have tried recipes that have been badly written. I'm not saying this one is, but there are certain modifications I wanted to make. So, although it does say that you can make modifications anyway. So for example, when it says vegetable oil, I've actually used olive oil. Let me tell you what the wet ingredients are. So we're using olive oil instead of vegetable oil. We're using very slightly less maple syrup because it said 100 ml. I will list all the ingredients so that you know the proportions, because that's always key, isn't it? She says having deviated from it slightly, but anyway. So 75, I think I've done 75 ml of the maple syrup. Then a teaspoon of vanilla extract. It said a teaspoon of ground cinnamon. I've put half a teaspoon, and a 1/4 teaspoon of sea salt. The nuts I've put Brazil nuts, which I absolutely love. They are a bit big, but we'll see how we get on. I've also got hazelnuts, which I love, and a few mixed nuts as well. I'm not quite sure, but not almonds, because they seem to like flaked almonds in these recipes. And of course I went to the grocery store, picked up what I thought were flaked almonds, turned out to be ground almonds, which we don't want. So we've got our dry ingredients. We now have to whisk this little mix of olive oil, maple syrup and the vanilla extract and the ground cinnamon. It does smell nice. It smells funny, it smells slightly alcoholic. I'm not quite sure why. Let me get my little mini whisk. Well, actually, I forgot to say, another way I've deviated from the recipe is I've used not my steel cut oats, but the bigger jumbo oats, even though it says use rolled oats. Rolled oats are the smaller oats, and the bigger the oat, the better for you, apparently. But these are tiny oats, but these are steel cut. It says they're the ancient grain of the Vikings. So, am I going to grow horns and blonde hair or something? I don't know. Anyway, let's mix all this together. And after we've done this, we're going to coat the dry ingredients and then put them onto 2 baking trays. I've preheated the oven to 160 fan. There we are. I think that's nicely mixed. In it goes. Looks a bit like treacle, actually. mix that all together, and then we'll put them on the baking trays, and it says cook for about 25 to 30 minutes until golden. Right, I've got my 2 baking trays, 1, 2, and I'm going to tip the mixture onto the trays, having lined them with baking paper. I may have already said that, so forgive me. Fanny Craddock I'm not, as you may have guessed. Or Julia Child. Was it Julia Child? That wonderful series with Meryl... No, not Meryl Streep. Was it Meryl Streep? No, it was Happy Valley Woman, whose name escapes me at the moment. It was very good. I think Meryl was in the film, wasn't she? Actually, I don't know why you need 2 baking sheets, but not exactly covering the entire baking sheet. There we are. That does look nice, it's a little bit sparse. Let me just show you how it's looking. There we go, so that's going in. 25 minutes is up. I'm going to take the granola out of the oven and see how it looks. So there they are. And here is the finished article. Look at that. It looks like real granola. Yay! So there's my very delicious, if I say so myself, granola recipe. And I put 2 tablespoons of that in my bowl with a serving of Greek yogurt and then some frozen fruit on the top and then a little drizzle of honey or maple syrup, and that would be my breakfast. Now let's move on to exercise, and I haven't done a huge amount, but I have done 1 fast walk and 1 weight video using the Fit by Mick series of videos on YouTube. And I'm going to run the footage, but I'll speed it up because otherwise we'll be here all day and it's not that interesting, but it's just to prove to you that I did do her whole 30-minute program. Now, I did struggle with some of it, of course, because it's the first time I've picked up weights in 2 years, so it was a bit of a stretch, but I did enjoy it. I really did enjoy it once I got into it. So I am going to keep that up. I should have done more really, but I haven't had a chance to, unfortunately, this week. But I'll try and do 2 walks and 2 weights next week. That's my goal. So if you want to join me, I highly recommend these Fit by Mick videos, because what you can do, I think she's pregnant now, so she's doing pregnant videos. But what you can do is if you look back through her playlist, you can find 30-minute or 20-minute videos, and you can just save them to your own playlist, and that's what I've done. So I can just go straight to them and play one, and I just find them really easy to follow. There's not a lot of chat in between. You know exactly where you are. She also gives you an easier version up in the top corner, so that's what I'm going to be doing. So there we are, progress. Let's see how we get on in week 2. And let me know in the comments if you are following me and how you've got on. And finally, let me tell you how I walked the plank in Kenya. So in 2006, when my kids were in their mid to late teens, I thought it would be fantastic for the 3 of us to go away on an activity holiday where we would be doing stuff during the day, and in the evening we could relax and have a chat. Now, as those of you who have children know, when your kids are teenagers, it can be a tricky time, and it wasn't all that long after I'd split up with my ex-husband. It had been about 3 or 4 years, and I just thought it would be a nice bonding experience for us. Now, I really pushed the boat out financially, and I bought us a walking safari trip to Kenya. None of us had ever been to Africa before, so I thought it'd be a real experience for us, and it certainly was. So we flew to Nairobi, and then we transferred to a very small plane. I hadn't really thought about any of this, but none of us really like flying. In fact, that's a slight understatement, because I really hate it, and my son hates it even more. My daughter's kind of a bit ambivalent about it. Anyway, we get on this plane, and oh my goodness me, could it be any more rocky? We were absolutely terrified. My son wouldn't speak to me. I was really scared. My daughter was sort of weeping, and I was trying to be calm and saying, oh no, it'll all be fine. And at one point, it was one of those planes that sort of hops about, and at one point we landed somewhere, and I said to the pilot, who I could almost touch, the plane was so small, and I said to him, you've got some slightly nervous passengers here, could you please reassure us? And he said, well, we'll be relatively safe. I thought, what? Relatively safe? Thanks, that's really what I wanted to hear. Anyway, we finally arrived at our destination, having dropped off all the other passengers, and it was really weird. We arrived on this landing strip where there was virtually no one there except for a shed and 2 camels and 3 escorts. Now, I have to tell you, I hadn't really paid a huge amount of attention to the itinerary. So I hadn't really looked into the detail, and I didn't really want to because I wanted it to be a surprise. What I hadn't realised was that we were the only people on this trip. It was a walking safari, so we'd be walking not that far away from wild animals, and we would have a retinue of camels carrying our stuff every day. And then we would camp at night, and this retinue of camels plus the guide and his assistants would be cooking us dinner while we sat round the campfire. It was a really amazing experience, but really very unexpected. So we'd walk during the day, and I hadn't quite appreciated that this trip was really designed for people who like to observe wildlife, because I had taken a pair of binoculars, but they were my grandfather's. I hadn't really thought about taking any decent binoculars or anything like that. Now, we weren't close to any lions except or cheetahs or anything like that until the last day when we were in the Land Rover going back to the airstrip. But on foot, we really weren't very far from elephant, buffalo. So it potentially could have been dangerous, but obviously we had the guide with us, so we trusted him. I don't know whether we should have done, but we did. And we were in this enclosed or semi-enclosed area that was protected and belonged to a particular landowner. However, there were times when it was a bit scary, but what was particularly funny, sort of unusual, was that we'd be sitting around the campfire, and for me that was the best time. We'd sit around the campfire in the evening and we'd be brought this food, and one night it was really weird because we were brought spaghetti carbonara for our dinner. I mean, to be in the Kenyan jungle and to eat spaghetti carbonara, it just seems so incongruous. It really was quite surreal, actually. Now, looking back, I know my kids will say it was an amazing experience, even though there were scary bits and all of that, but it was an amazing experience. And one of the most amazing experiences, and one that I cannot believe I actually did, was to walk the plank. Now, this was within this protected area, and I think it was the only way to get across this river, although you probably could have walked for miles around the side of it. But honestly, when I look at this image of me, and thank goodness my daughter took the picture of me, because they gaily trotted off along this plank, my daughter and my son, to get to the other side, as did the guide. And I went, oh. In fact, I don't really remember what I did, but I must have looked at it and thought, oh my goodness me, how am I going to get across this plank? Because it really wasn't very wide. It was probably only about this wide. And I've not walked a beam. I never did gymnastics at school of that ilk or anything like that. And my balance really isn't very good. But somehow or other, I got across that plank, because there's the picture of me. As you can see, I'm looking down like this with my hands outstretched because I'm terrified of falling. But I did actually get across. Now, I think actually, and just slightly digressing, is that it just shows you that there are things you can do even if you don't believe that you can do them. I had this self-belief. Where it came from, I don't know, and I managed to get across the plank, which was amazing. Now, I'm not suggesting you go and do that, because I would never do that again. Far too dangerous, especially at my age. With osteoporosis, the older we get, the more brittle our bones get, especially if we're women. So really don't go near anything like that unless you want to do it, of course. But I would never do that again. But it was an amazing experience, and it's a picture that inspires me. I love to look at that picture and think, I achieved that. I got across that river on that plank by myself, aged, what would I have been, in my late 50s, I think. So I'm really proud of having done that, even though I don't actually remember how I did it or anything like that. So it was a great experience all round, even though it was scary, and I don't think it's one I'd repeat either. And let me know in the comments, have you been on safari? Have you been close to wild animals? And one of the best experiences of that holiday, apart from this walking the plank and also the sitting around the fire in the evening, was the drive back in the Land Rover to the airstrip at the end of the trip and seeing these amazing cheetahs who had just eaten, because they were lying back like this. I'll see if I can find a picture. I don't think I have one to hand. They were lying back with their tums absolutely full of gazelles or some other poor animal that they'd just eaten. They were completely and utterly relaxed and just sleeping in the sun. It was amazing. It was so interesting, and I'm so grateful to have been. It was an amazing experience all round. So, a slightly different type of vlog this week. I hope you've enjoyed it. Can we just remark on my hair, by the way? Now, this is 3 or 4 day old hair, I think. Look how nice and wavy at the ends it is, and that is that extremely ridiculously expensive hot air brush, which I think I've sort of got the hang of. And I think what it is for me is I need to use it when my hair is still quite wet. I mean, not soaking wet, because I put it in a towel first for about sort of 20 minutes or so. But then I dried it from wet, and I think that really helped to smooth it and give it a bit of body. I do have to use my straighteners on the top here because my hair is so fuzzy, but I'm really pleased with the way it's turned out. I think it looks really quite nice and buoyant. Is that the word? I don't know. Anyway, it looks nice. I'm pleased with it. What do you think? So let me know in the comments, what did you think of the Marks and Spencer's try on? Would you be tempted to try any of them yourself? How are you getting on with your diet and exercise program if you are following me or joining me? And have you ever been on safari or done anything like walking the plank? Do let me know, I'd love to hear from you. So that's it. Do give me a thumbs up if you've enjoyed this video, and don't forget to subscribe before you leave if you haven't already. And if you'd like to hear more from me, I have a monthly newsletter, and the link to subscribe to that is in the description box below. And in that, I don't just talk about fashion, I also talk about beauty, lifestyle, food and drink, other content creators, entertainment, and anything else that tickles my fancy. And thank you so much for watching. It means the absolute world to me. It really does. And I hope you're all doing really well and enjoying the spring or autumn if you're in the Southern Hemisphere. And I look forward to seeing you on my next video. Bye!